Driving through the American Midwest, you can't help notice the faded remnants of a time where mere existence on this harsh landscape was a daily struggle. From the wagon-wheel tracks worn into solid rock to the frozen trails through hostile forests, frontiersmen and frontierswomen tried to survive these rugged conditions, living free off the land, using its wild animals for trade, for warmth, for food, and for leather. Yet always on the lookout for fierce predators and the notorious jackalope. The West was eventually encased in barbed wire and grazed by cattle, all now attended by cowboys in pickup trucks. The land may be tame, but the weather never will be. It was on this muddy ground that I entered the Hugh Glass recreational area in northwest South Dakota. I'm sure some of you that have watched my videos with me camping in my little trailer in my Jeep might think that the way I camp through all conditions, through all terrains, all seasons, and all temperatures, that it's a little bit rugged, risky, and uncomfortable. And I got to agree, sometimes it certainly is uncomfortable. But it really all depends on what context you use for all that. If you're used to the comforts of home and you travel, in a nice, warm, big motor home, then yeah, this may appear to be a little bit more rugged. But if you look at the way that the early pioneers traveled, and especially the frontiersmen, this isn't rugged at all. And that's why I want to talk about a real rugged frontiersman whose name is Hugh Glass. Hugh Glass may not be a household name, but if you like tales of adventure and survival, this man is high on the list. I first found his story in a book called Desperate Journeys and Abandoned Souls, written by Edward E. Leslie in 1988. There's many a book depicting his life as a mountain man, but it was an award-winning movie in 2015 that put the story in the theaters throughout the land, with Leonardo DiCaprio playing Hugh Glass. I'm near Lemmon, South Dakota, and this plaque commemorates Hugh Glass, adventurer. In 1964, the Lemmon Chamber of Commerce erected a plaque to commemorate an event so incredible it has remained unparalleled as the story of stamina, bravery, and courage. It tells the tale of a man who accompanied a fur trading expedition up the Grand River in 1823. But all did not go as planned for Hugh Glass. On this spot in August 1823, Hugh Glass encountered a grizzly, and it was a very grisly event. Words alone cannot describe what happened that fateful trip. However, an incredible statue by artist John Lopez certainly portrays the horror. On display at the Grand River Museum in Lemmon, I chose this artwork to reenact my own version of the gruesome attack. He was mauled, he was ripped apart, he was eaten, and he was left for dead. It's a long story, but it happened here, and he could only crawl. He could no longer even walk. Having multiple gashes and a broken leg, he was not even left a gun to defend himself. Because he wanted to get to Fort Kiowa, which is to the southeast. That's the way he crawled. It took him 6 weeks and 190 miles to get there. I think if there's one person who is the perfect example of the word survivalist, it would be Hugh Glass. Survivalist number one. It only had to have been his will to live, and perhaps his will to seek revenge on those that left him, that made him survive. Compared to this guy, the rest of us are kind of just Walmart shoppers out for a day in the park having a picnic, because none of us can compare to what he went through. But the modern traveler can still experience the thrill of being in the wilderness, each with their own sense of adventure, just having fun and enjoying nature's gift. But don't mess with grizzlies. You know, the mud I can certainly do without. I've seen a lot of mud lately. But hopefully it's supposed to actually clear up. It's been raining for days. The temperature now is about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 10 degrees Celsius, I guess. But as it clears out, that means the temperature is going to drop considerably. Forecast is for about 29 degrees Fahrenheit tonight, which is, I don't know, -3 Celsius, below freezing, let's put it that way. And as a Canadian, that really shouldn't be that big a deal, but I've been traveling in the south for the last few months, so getting back into the cold chill is taking a little bit to get used to again. And the other thing is, through all my travels in the south, I've been carting around that wood stove and never used it. I haven't used it since December. So I'm thinking maybe tonight might be a good opportunity to get out the wood stove. Remove the clips. Lift that up, twist it. Out comes the original vent. And now it's ready for the stovepipe. One thing I did notice from the comments on the latter videos on the stove, that they didn't see all the videos. There were 3 on construction and there were 3 on testing it out. And so I understand not everybody had to see each one, because I got a lot of comments on the stovepipe which didn't really make sense because they didn't understand the stovepipe. This is it, and what it is very thin titanium foil. And the reason I got this is it fits right into the stove. I can't carry around lots of stovepipe and fins hanging off it and all that stuff, or it wouldn't fit in my trailer. Everything had to be compact. But let me show you again the concept of how the stovepipe goes together. Unrolls like that, very noisily. And I've got these rings, and very carefully I pull that up. And one end, get one in. Slide it up and put another one on. And there it is, the stovepipe or flue. Now I can put it in the trailer. It's not fancy, but it works. It's still daylight, and it's about 44 degrees Fahrenheit, 9 degrees Celsius. It's cool, but it's not really cold. It will be colder. It's supposed to get below freezing tonight, so might as well fire it up since I brought it along. And what I really need it for is actually just to dry the trailer out, because I've been through so many rainstorms. It's just been rain, rain, rain for weeks. And I need a chance to dry it out. As a matter of fact, you know, like this towel is absolutely soaked. I use it to wipe down the sides of the trailer when I fold it up because it's been raining. And I've had a shower, so my shower towel is soaking wet. I just need a chance to dry. And there's some people that actually have debated whether the heat from this stove is dry heat. So here's the perfect chance to find out if it's dry heat or not. Will it dry these towels? We're gonna find out. Fire in the hole. One thing I am going to try, not because I think I need it, but because everybody else thinks I need it, and that is this little guy by 7 Pedal. And it's called a smart car charger with, here comes, carbon monoxide detector. One of the main sources of carbon monoxide poisoning is the automobile, which is what this CO detector is designed for. It easily fits in a 12-volt outlet, and immediately the detector starts blinking as it goes into self-checking mode. It is sensitive to 3 parts per million of carbon monoxide, much lower than the 50 parts per million recommended for work exposure and the 800 parts per million, which could be lethal. Once it stops blinking, it is ready to go. The bonus is that this unit also has 2 USB ports, something I can always use. Aware that there has to be skeptics out there, I set up a little test using a tin can and some paper. I made a little fire to generate some smoke. As you can see, it did detect carbon monoxide and flashed red with a warning alarm. Conventional CO detectors would be deafening in such a small space, so this was perfect. I think you can hear it. It's going pretty good right now. I think I can close the door. See, even closing the door brings down the flame a bit. There is far too much air going in. I'm not going to put the hose on yet. I can still regulate it. But intake hose is really only needed at night because I've got the door vent open right now. That's about the amount of heat I need, so I can start cooking. I've got some baby potatoes. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to boil some potatoes, and then I'm going to put them in the casserole dish with a little cheese and whatever else I have, probably some baked beans or something, and try another casserole. Why not? Well, as expected, pretty well everything I cook turns into brown goo, but I don't really care. I'm not that fussy. It's not the best ingredients or the most healthy. It's what I happen to have while I'm traveling. Okay, it's a little bland. I could have used some spices, but it's hot and I'll be full. It's something I haven't had before. And it's a challenge to eat. It's still crunchy. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but right now it's about 25 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. But it got up to 30 Celsius, which was close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was sweating. It's too hot. I had to open the door and let the cold air in. This stove is fantastic in the wintertime where it's always below freezing, but when it's spring or when it's fall and it's just a little below freezing, it's too hot. I've cut it to the bare minimum. I'm not putting any more pellets in there, and with keeping the door open, I can keep it to something that's reasonably comfortable. So all those people that were giving me comments about how to make it more efficient, tell me how to make it less efficient. I want to burn less fuel and have less heat because I already know how to make it really hot in here. I just want it to be room temperature. So I'm going to look into that. Probably a smaller cage, so I'm not using as many pellets, less airflow, stuff like that. I'm not changing the design of the stove. I'm not going to make a little one. There's no point. I just want to use the same one, but not burn up when it's just a little bit below freezing or around freezing. That night was warm and peaceful, with a few coyotes singing lullabies. Well, as you can see, it's a beautiful sunny morning. It's actually going to get warm today, so I'm looking forward to that. But last night it did get cold. I did a digital reading in the morning and it was 28.8 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's below freezing, which did warrant having the stove. It did well. Maybe there are some things I'd like to change on it. But as far as the issue, was it dry heat? So the towel is dry. You can hear that. All towels are dry. My sleeping bag is dry because it was getting kind of damp. Everything is dry. The heat is definitely dry in the trailer. And I think why some people had issues with that, they were thinking of the concept of an open flame. If you had an open flame inside the trailer, then the properties of combustion is some water would be produced from the wood. However, the flame in this particular case never sees the trailer. The inlet, outlet, it's all sealed. So what is heating the trailer is the metal. The hot steel is what is your heating source. So it is dry, and yes, it certainly does dry the trailer out. And as for carbon monoxide, there was simply not enough to detect. There was one other aspect of the stove that I just keep forgetting to put in my other videos. One more demonstration. How much ash did it use overnight? There, that got most of it. So there you go. I would say roughly a cupful maybe. Not much. And no problem disposing it. It's really good for the soil. After cleaning and taking down the stove, all the parts fit snugly inside. You know, I think this is as close to a perfect day as I've seen in a long time. The sun's shining, I can feel the warmth. The t-shirt's fine, I don't need a jacket. It's quiet. All I can hear are the birds. There's no jets, no engines. Just a little bit of wind, that's it. Hugh Glass Campground has 17 campsites, and of those 17 campsites, only one is taken by me. I have the entire campsite to myself. It's free, there's no registration, and you can stay here for 14 days. It's got picnic tables, fire pits, restrooms, a dumpster, all the things you need. Oh, and water as well. There's a water pump over there. So why is nobody here? Because it's May and the weather hasn't been super fantastic lately. Even last night it was below freezing. And so the people will come. But in the meantime, I guess I get to enjoy it all to myself. Well, not quite all by myself, as these deer had to check me out. So I think there's a little bit of irony here that the man who got mauled by a bear had to go through tremendous pain and suffering, crawl 200 miles eating grubs and worms just to survive, has left as a legacy this free campsite, which is comfortable, has toilets, has shelter. I can bring my own home so that I can eat and be warm and have electricity and all the beautiful comforts that I appreciate. And I'm not surviving at all. I'm just enjoying it. So thank you, Hugh Glass. You didn't have to do it, but I appreciate it anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and will check out my other travels as well. And if you're in this area of South Dakota, pop by the camp and give your respects to Survivalist Extreme, Hugh Glass.